Straight ahead on OC News, a second woman has come forward accusing Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh of sexual assault. Meanwhile, protests erupt on both sides of the issue.
A Fullerton police officer is stabbed and the suspect remains at large.
Hi, I'm Carlos Andrade. Tune in later for coverage on a vandalism parking incident happening here on our very own campus.
Bill Cosby will be back in court tomorrow to find out if he is going to prison. I'll have the latest on that story.
And Cal State Fullerton Athletics celebrate a big first. We'll have the details, these stories, and much more. OC News starts right now. Thanks for joining us today at OC News. I'm Ashley Antolin.
And I'm Leslie Kano. OC News is brought to you by the broadcast journalism students at Cal State Fullerton.
President Trump's nominee for the U.S. Supreme Court is fighting back. He took to airways to speak out against the allegations plaguing his confirmation. Meanwhile, several protests have erupted in Washington and other cities. Some groups support Kavanaugh and others are fighting against his confirmation. Our reporter, Jonathan Damon, is live in the newsroom with details. Jonathan?
Thank you, Ashley and Leslie. There were several protests in Washington, D.C. today amid new allegations against Brett Kavanaugh, President Donald Trump's nominee for Supreme Court. The new information is forcing Senate to dig further into accusations made by two women against Mr. Kavanaugh, as well as people who may have attended the alleged high school party and witnessed the incident at Yale University. Despite allegations made about him, Kavanaugh told Fox during his interview, and I quote, "I'm not going anywhere." As for Christine Blasey Ford, she is frightened, and I quote, "My fear will not hold me back from testifying." Here is the latest on the Kavanaugh investigation on Capitol Hill. CNN's Serlin Safai has the report.
Tonight, as new allegations threaten embattled Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh's nomination, he's digging in.
Did you guys ever look at each other and say, I'm out, this is enough, just isn't worth it?
I'm not going to let false accusations drive us out of this process, and we're looking for a fair process where I can be heard and defend my integrity, my lifelong record of promoting dignity and equality for women, starting with the women who knew me when I was 14 years old. I'm not going anywhere.
And in a letter sent to the Senate Judiciary Committee today, Kavanaugh says, "I will not be intimidated into withdrawing from this process." Kavanaugh's forceful message comes as a second woman has now come forward alleging sexual misconduct. Deborah Ramirez, Kavanaugh's former classmate at Yale, telling The New Yorker that at a party in a dorm room in the early 80s, Kavanaugh exposed himself to her. Brett was laughing, Ramirez told The New Yorker. "I can still see his face and his hips coming forward, like when you pull up your pants." CNN has not spoken to anyone so far who is willing to corroborate Ramirez's story. And Kavanaugh denies the allegations, calling them smears pure and simple in the letter to Congress today. With top Republican leaders on Capitol Hill renewing their push to move forward.
Even by the far left standards, this shameful smear campaign has hit a new low.
President Trump is standing by Kavanaugh.
There's a chance that this could be one of the single most unfair, unjust things to happen to a candidate for anything. But I am with Judge Kavanaugh.
Dismissing the allegations after White House officials huddled with Kavanaugh over the weekend.
For people to come out of the woodwork from 36 years ago and 30 years ago and never mention it, all of a sudden it happens. In my opinion, it's totally political.
That argument echoed today from White House officials attempting to poke holes in the report.
This is starting to feel like a vast left-wing conspiracy. The New York Times says that they interviewed dozens of people over the last couple of weeks trying to verify this second accusation, and they couldn't go forward with the reporting. Not because they are supportive of President Trump's Supreme Court nominees, but because they have some standards.
Ronan Farrow, one of the authors of the New Yorker report, today pushing back, defending his reporting.
We did receive, however, several direct accounts from people who said they were told right after or saw her describing it right after, and who independently of Ms. Ramirez recounted the same fact pattern about Brett Kavanaugh doing this.
We believe Dr. Ford! We believe Anita Hill! We believe Debbie Ramirez!
The new allegations are re-energizing the protest on Capitol Hill. The chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee says he'll look into the new allegations, but Thursday's hearing with Christine Blasey Ford and Kavanaugh is still on, intensifying the pressure on Republican swing votes like Susan Collins.
When 15-year-old Christine tried to scream, her attacker covered her mouth so no one could hear her. Will Susan Collins listen to her now?
On and off Capitol Hill.
Has she made a decision about how she will vote on Kavanaugh?
She called for more information, more hearings, and I know there are hearings.
She has enough information.
Will she release
He's a sexual predator.
The two parties are supposed to testify this Thursday in Washington, D.C. We'll keep you updated with the latest. Back to the studio.
Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein will have to wait to learn his fate on Thursday, following a surprising day at the White House when he believed he would be fired. Rosenstein will meet with the President Trump to discuss reports Rosenstein suggested secretly recording the president in his removal. Laura Jarrett has the latest.
Drama and uncertainty this afternoon regarding the future of the Russia investigation. The man in charge of the probe, Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein, may be out of a job in the next few days. After meeting with White House Chief of Staff John Kelly today and talking on the phone with the president, the White House announced Rosenstein will meet face-to-face with President Trump on Thursday, saying in a statement, "At the request of Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein, he and President Trump had an extended conversation to discuss recent news stories. They will meet on Thursday when the president returns to Washington, D.C." Rosenstein's fate was unclear after the New York Times reported Friday that Rosenstein had suggested he wear a wire to secretly record the president and even discussed recruiting cabinet members to invoke the 25th Amendment in order to remove Trump from office. According to a person close to the president, Trump was too concerned with the news about his Supreme Court nominee, Brett Kavanaugh, to focus on his deputy attorney general.
I think it's a very sad story, and people are obviously, we are looking into it, but it's a very sad state of affairs when something like that can happen.
But will you fire Rod Rosenstein based on this treachery?
I don't want to comment on it until I get all the facts. I haven't gotten all the facts, but certainly it's being looked at in terms of what took place, if anything took place, and I'll make a determination sometime later, but I don't have the facts.
Sources tell CNN Rosenstein over the weekend discussed with Kelly the prospect of resigning, but wanted to control the timing. This morning, White House sources tell CNN they believe Rosenstein had every intention of quitting today. But justice officials tell CNN when Rosenstein went to the White House this morning, he instead expected to be fired. Neither of those things happened. If Rosenstein does get fired or quits, who then takes over the Russia investigation?
Noel Francisco.
Those duties would go to Solicitor General Noel Francisco, since Attorney General Jeff Sessions has recused himself from the investigation. As Solicitor General, Francisco is responsible for arguing cases for the administration before the Supreme Court, as he did last year with President Trump's travel ban.
Mr. Schumer.
Francisco was narrowly confirmed by the Senate along party lines 1 year ago.
The yeas are 50, the nays are 47. The nomination is confirmed.
44 people are dead in the Carolinas, face more flooding and rising rivers. North and South Carolina officials warn that flooding dangers is far from over. Although the roads are not flooded, they may have damage and debris that can be hazardous for those driving or walking.
An off-duty Fullerton police officer was stabbed this last Sunday, the 23rd, in the city of Placentia. It took place at a strip mall off Yorba Linda Boulevard. Officials said that the officer was stabbed multiple times in the abdomen. All injuries sustained were serious but not life-threatening. The officer has since been released. There was an arrest made of a 19-year-old Placentia resident who was on parole at the time. He was later charged with assault with a deadly weapon.
More than a dozen female victims came forward accusing a Newport Beach doctor and his girlfriend of drugging and raping them. The surgeon and his girlfriend were charged with rape by use of drugs, oral copulation by anesthesia, or controlled substances. In addition, the Newport Beach police reviewed the doctor's phone and discovered photos and videos of intoxicated women who might be additional victims.
A CSUF professor was ordered to reimburse $3,000 to a Cal State Fullerton student.
We turn to Carlos for the latest on this story.
Hello, and I'm currently live on location near Nutwood parking structure where on March 5th, an incident occurred between a student's car and an outraged professor. John Short, a professor of theater and dance here at Cal State University Fullerton, is found responsible for damages on a student's vehicle. Brittany Rangel's Nissan Altima was damaged by Mr. Short due to parking in a 30-minute electrical vehicle spot on campus, just like this one right behind me. Ms. Rangels parked in that spot with her temporary disabled placard due to it being near the Office of Disability Support Service because she had an exam later that day. Mr. Short's reasoning behind his actions were because he waited for 55 minutes prior to his teaching his class. His mobility was restrained due to a double hernia, which encouraged his aggression towards a car that took a spot away from his EV camp. On September 12th, Mr. Short was ordered to pay Brittany Rangel $3,200 for intentionally damaging her vehicle. Since then, Mr. Short has apologized for the incident and in his case has been handled by HR. Stay tuned for future development. Live from Fullerton, Carlos Andrade, OC News.
Police have wrapped up the pedestrian safety campaign at the intersection of Nutwood and Commonwealth at Cal State Fullerton. The 3-week campaign was aimed at educating folks about the safety at one of the busiest corners on campus. Officers wrote a total of 85 tickets at that intersection, 50 citations to pedestrians, and another 35 to motorists. Police will continue to patrol the area in 30-minute increments.
Coming up, you might want to think twice before reaching for that second piece of Halloween candy, or third, or fourth.
Also, find out which Hollywood star's sentence has been changed from 30 years to 10.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move, so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
And now we go with Christina Romero, who's in Hollywood with more information after the Trump administration moves $260 million from HIV/AIDS programs.
I'm in the city of West Hollywood, where the Foundation AIDS of Healthcare is providing exams and also information to the community. Approximately 70% of people living with HIV globally were aware of their HIV status in 2016. The remaining 30% still need access to HIV testing services. But while HIV testing isn't essential to prevent spread, it will also help those that need treatment get the care they need. But too many people living with HIV or at risk of HIV still do not have access to prevention, care, and treatment.
So basically to get them tested, educate them, and to get people into care. I mean, if it's an STI, definitely get them into care. And if it's an HIV, get them into care and medication. So that's mainly our goal.
I am Christine reporting for OC News.
Attention meat lovers, a meat company has recalled over 100,000 pounds of meat. Also, in a past childhood disease returns to the United States. We turn to Leslie for all the details.
The U.S. Department of Agriculture said Wednesday Cargill Meat Solutions recalled nearly 133,000 pounds of ground chuck. 18 people who ate the meat became sick and one of them died. The recall meat was produced June 21st and distributed nationwide. The USDA inspection mark on the package says EST 86-R inside. If you still have ground chuck in your freezer with that mark, you should throw it away or return it to the store where you purchased it from. Researchers in London discovered people living in the top 20% most polluted areas of the city were 40% more likely to be diagnosed with dementia. Their findings were published in the medical journal BMJ Open. Although the scientists admit they only uncovered a link, the results support a Chinese study linking pollution to reduce cognitive performance. According to the World Health Organization, dementia is the 7th leading cause of death in the world. The Oklahoma Health Department has confirmed 9 cases of mumps in the state. 3 of those cases are in the University of Oklahoma. University officials are working with staff at the state health department while they investigate the cases.
I've just been informed that they've notified the parents and they've talked to people in the dorm where it was discovered.
Epidemiologists say the vaccine is still the most effective form of prevention, and they are asking the students affected to check their medical records.
With Halloween being right around the corner, so will buckets of candy. MSN.com put together a chart showing how many jumping jacks it would take to burn off one of those little fun-sized candies. Snickers peanut butter tops the list, with the 130-calorie treat needing a little over 800 jumping jacks in order to burn off the calories. Might want to think twice about reaching for that second piece of candy.
Disney reanimates a character after a blowback.
And we talk about the new upcoming animated movies starring LeBron James and Zendaya. We move on to Brenda Gomez for the latest on entertainment news.
Hi guys, well I have the latest in entertainment for you. In more recent news, Bill Cosby was sent to attend court today in regards to his accusations from Angel Constance. However, Cosby's sentencing has been pushed to Tuesday, where a psychologist will be present to testify for the defendant. Disney has received backlash after receiving criticism for the new animated film Wreck-It Ralph 2, where Princess Tiana was perceived as being changed. In response to the criticism, Disney has agreed to redraw the princess after changing some of her facial characteristics and after lightening her skin tone. How cool would it be to befriend your favorite singer? Well, it happened to Sofia Sanchez, an 11-year-old girl who has befriended Drake. She received a visit from him at the hospital as she waited for a heart transplant, and after a video of her dancing in the hospital hallways to one of his songs went viral. Not only did she befriend him, but she even received an iPhone from him and his personal phone number. Good for her. And for more celebrities, the Pepsi halftime show for the Super Bowl is the most televised event in the United States. The performance for the halftime show is a highlight, and for this upcoming 2019 halftime show, Maroon 5 is set to hit the stage at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, Georgia. During one interview with Howard Stern, Adam Levine once said that the band wants to play the Super Bowl. Well, it seems that their goal will soon become a reality. Good luck to Maroon 5 for another great achievement. And now, on to film. Have you ever wondered what it would feel like to be discovered by a different species outside a human? In the new animated film Smallfoot, you will be able to follow the journey of a Jedi when he finds himself face to face with a human and brings him to his village. Their journey begins on September 28th in a movie theater near you, and that's all for entertainment.
Find out which San Francisco 49er is out for the season.
And Cal State Fullerton Athletics earns a big title. We'll explain after the break.
Seat is a story. Behind every story is the reason for transparency.
What if you could invest in the future of kids, like a stock? Not the kind of stock that's about making money, but a stock for social change. A whole new kind of investment called Better Futures. When you invest, it helps kids go to college. Believe in us, invest in us, watch us grow. My name is Sydney, and I'm your dividend.
A big win for Tiger Woods and a quarterback from the 49ers is sidelined.
We turn now to Alex Lustig, who has the latest of sports news. Alex?
Thanks, ladies. This just in. San Francisco 49ers quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo is out for the season after he tore his ACL and lost to the Kansas City Chiefs yesterday. His cleat appeared to get caught in the turf, and his left leg did not bend right as he went out of bounds. The backup C.J. Beathard will be the quarterback for the rest of the season. On the other side of the field, Kansas City quarterback Patrick Mahomes passed for 3 touchdowns, which puts him at 13 for the year through the first 3 weeks. The Chiefs ended up beating San Francisco by a final score of 38-27. In every sport, there are upsets. Last night, the visiting New England Patriots were upset by the Detroit Lions. Matt Patricia faced his former team for the first time since becoming head coach of the Lions during the offseason. He seemed to remember most of the plays, which led to Detroit defeating the New England Patriots by a score of 26-10. Going into golf, Tiger Woods has finally broken out of his slump and won the Tour Championship. It is his first win since 2013 when he won the WGC Bridgestone Invitational. He was swarmed by fans on the field after the 18th hole in his victory and had this to say about his win.
Well, it's been unbelievable. To get to this level again, I didn't know if that would ever happen again, and lo and behold, here we are. Worked through an unknown, and that was the hardest part. It was an unknown. I didn't know if I'd be able to do this again, or at what level, to what degree, and here we are with 80 wins. It's a pretty cool number.
October is right around the corner. That means playoffs for the MLB. The Los Angeles Dodgers faced the San Diego Padres yesterday, and they looked like a playoff team. Although the Dodgers are a game and a half out from clinching a playoff spot, they took care of the Padres by a final score of 14-0. Speaking of playoff teams, check out this walk-off single by the Cleveland Indians at bottom of the 11th inning.
And a 1-1. Here it is. Deep left. Indians win it.
It's the walk-off base hit for the second consecutive game against the Red Sox. Moving into Cal State Fullerton athletics, the Commissioner's Cup was brought to the game last night. It is the first time it has visited the field. Also, the Winds basketball schedule has been released as well. Their first game will be on November 1st. That's all we got for the world of sports. Back to Ashling and Leslie behind the desk.
Well, that's it for tonight's show. Be sure to tune in next time on OC News.
And make sure to follow us on social media for news and updates. Have a great evening.
OC News is sponsored in part by Univision Communications, Southwest Airlines, and Casanova McCann.